So this video is about what animators do, what all good animators do. And I'm going to start with showing you guys what I studied in order to get the points across, because if you want to know what good animators do, you should go and study whoever your favorite animator is, or just a scene you thought was really cool that inspired you. So that's the scene. But yeah, you should be looking at whatever really inspires you to start getting started. So the first thing I'm going to do is just quickly go over some of the things I did, show you guys how I break it down, some of my thinking for when I study, so that you can improve faster than just mindlessly copying, because if you mindlessly copy, you're not going to get any better. One of the biggest things when doing a study, other than what I was saying in my other video, which is feel the motion, which is huge. Not to downplay it, that's huge, because their sense of motion is really good. That's what separates a beginner from someone who's like professional or just really good at animation, is their developed sense of motion, which this actually helps develop a lot. And the way to develop it is to simplify as much as you can. Use contours to the best of your ability. Try not to get lost in a lot of detail. It's really tempting to a lot of the time, but the more you do and focus on all the little details in the character, especially when you like the character design, it's hard, but the more you do that, the more you're kind of just losing out on time, and you're probably gonna have to redo it anyway. So just breaking down, which I'll show you guys how I approached it further in my study, which here doesn't really count. But basically what you're gonna do is frame by frame, start wherever you are most interested in, flip back and forth, get that sense of motion or feeling from how they did it, and then try to translate that the best you can. The first drawing is going to be just trying to get the composition and shapes correct, and then everything after that is going to be still that, but with the added difficulty of the motion. I'll let you guys all see pretty much how much I struggle and go through, and of course it is not going to be as good, not your drawing and not your motion, because you are still kind of hard referencing someone. Even when I reference my own work, literally my own drawings and animations, I cannot perform the same because I'm focusing too much on something else that's already been done. So don't worry about how it looks too much, just do your best and then move on. Because when I first started, it was about a full day for about 7 drawings. Like, that was like the most I could muster, and that I would probably be animating for like 8 to 10 hours, somewhere around there. Maybe not 10, but a lot of hours. Like, my whole session, there's only 7 drawings. So and that was on like a good day. So don't be discouraged, just take your time. That's what's really most important, because when you're doing these studies, you really want to stop when you feel like you've learned or gotten out of it what you wanted to get, which mainly for me a lot of the times is just how they did the spacing for the type of scene, like a type of action scene or the type of easing that they use. Just get what you want to get out of it, and then go do something that's going to be more interesting, because as fun as studies can be, they can be a little a little dull after the 10th hour. So yeah, and I definitely didn't get a lot of this right at first, so there's gonna be a lot of flipping and going back to the original reference and just fixing. But we're not gonna sit on one part for too long. We kind of skim through so you guys can kind of see just a little bit of my thought process when I'm doing stuff, and mainly even more than my thought process, because I'll explain that more later. I just want you guys to see a fairly decent enough way to break it down. Like I don't even finish the pupils, I just throw in the glasses really quick because they're not important, but yeah. So the last thing that I want to talk about before I get into the 3 things that all good animators do is something I feel is fairly important, because you can use it for both your own animations and studying, and that's the anchor technique. And essentially you use the anchor technique when there's a lot of changing parts, but there's at least one thing that is more similar to the last frame than everything else is. So the most similar piece, and in this one I use her eye or her iris, because out of everything else, like as you can see, like the head, completely different space, the hair, ear, everything is fairly drastic compared to the eye, which is actually still overlapping really well. So I just use the iris as an anchor, and that helps you find the next drawing a lot better. The spacing should feel a lot better when you do it. But again, I'll just quickly skim through because, to be honest, this was an attempt that went pretty well. I'm lying. I actually redid this entire drawing, but the concept is the concept is still there. You don't always get it right on the first try. Okay, so the very first thing on the list that all good animators do is tracking. And what that is just tracking limbs, or tracking something that's still fairly consistent. And here it would be the limb position unchanged, everything else is moving. Her torso, shoulders, hips. This arm is the same, but it's changing position so much that it's tracked, but not as closely as this one, because this still goes back in the same line, and gives your eye that continuity when it's actually playing. So tracking and overlapping in that way, you can kind of see this onion skin, how how the tracking spacing works. But you do not want to use onion skin in order to get the proper feeling. You just want to get used to no onion skin and going in and just feeling where these pieces should be. That's really the best way to get that. Again, here the arm is still just to me it still feels like it's tracking pretty well, but here, instead of tracking the same piece of her forearm, it's more so tracking the position of her entire shoulder and upper arm. It's still tracking those positions. And here, her hip, not the same thing. This is not tracking, but again, more stuff is moving. This stays basically in the same place while other things are moving. That again helps your eye track more things as things are moving like really fast on the screen. This type of thinking and spacing for particular pieces that shouldn't even really be moving too much, keeping it as like close as you can while still like slightly moving it, really helps people be able to feel it. Because a lot of times when you watch animation, obviously your brain and your eyes is not ever so fast that you can just dissect every pose as it's going by. So these type of things help the eye at least feel what's happening, so that you on a subconscious level understand what you just saw. Now this one has a lot, because yeah, there's just a lot in this one. So it actually does have number 2, number 1 in there as well. But number 2 is halving. What a lot of people do when they animate is halve. This is actually a lot of the times when I don't know what to do next or how to space next. Failsafe for me is always halving. And what halving is literally her last arm is here. The next frame, it is halfway through where her arm last was. That's what halving is. And I've seen it pretty much every time I've done an animation study. I can't remember a time. Well, honestly, I've seen all these steps, so I don't know why I tried to single that one out, but this one has just stood out to me the most. Her elbow overlaps with where her shoulder just was. Her whole trapezius and shoulder area, it pretty much overlaps where that was, maintaining that on the screen. This is a little lower because it just has to be, but this still, like, the type of spacing that's been going on since here, this arm has, the way it's spaced allows your eye to track it so that you can feel what she's doing with her staff. Like, all this is just spaced in a way where you can better track it subconsciously rather than consciously trying to look at the screen and be like, what the fuck just happened? So overlap is another huge thing. It's not on this list, but it is another thing that really good animators do. I didn't put it on this list because I just feel like there's a better animation to show overlap. This particular animation shows off other elements better. So the elbow this whole time has really been a huge focus point for eye tracking. That's been a huge thing that they have been using here. Also, the elbow over here, again, just like this hip, it's maintaining pretty much the same spot. I'm not gonna lie, theirs looks a lot better than the way I did it here. The spacing was kind of shit, but we will go over a comparison later so you guys can see where I stopped trying to be a perfectionist and just moved on, because again, you're not gonna make it as good as they did, because if you even copy your own work, it's not gonna be as good. So next one, this is kind of just a follow through for the arm still. And then here, this didn't write any notes because I can remember this one. Dragging. Dragging is the third one and final one. And the reason why dragging is so important is because it's going to give animations the weight and power it needs. So right here, as she's coming forward, before she comes to do her next thing, it's going to drag it. And this helps give such a great sense of weight and motion to your animations. It's just, you have to learn how and when to use it, and that's pretty much just experimentation and just exposure and studying, you know, just doing it more. Another anchor point, her face, because everything else is moving away, but this face is still pretty much in the same area. And again, it's halving. The contour of her face halves where her whole head used to be. So these concepts pop up all the time. I can't write it every time because it just is going to get redundant for how often it's done. Yeah, and as you can see here, again, eye tracking and weight. But yeah, so next, just a pretty cool frame, and this is the next thing I did want to talk about, which is something that I've seen in a lot of really good animation. Is something that doesn't necessarily follow how it should move, but it still works really well, which is this elbow is bent here, like very obviously bent, and without changing length, her arm is now extended. Now I believe that this was a hotfix, either by, I don't know if one person animated this and just finished all the in-betweens by themselves, or had an assistant do in-betweens. Normally the faster Sakugas are done by one person, but I don't know. Anyways, doesn't matter. Either way, if they did extend this arm up higher, maybe up here, it would be very unpleasant to your eyes. So I know why they did it. This keeps a continuous flow, whereas bringing it up, and then probably the next key that they had was too low down, so they just kept it all the same the whole time. So made a point of this just also to say you can do things like this, just hotfix your own work, save yourself from having to redo a bunch of frames. And then I call this same spot spacing, but it's halving. So again, halfway through her torso, her back is there, and then does it again. And that's pretty much it. So quick recap is just tracking, which is the elbow, or not the elbow, like it doesn't fucking matter what limb, but that's where I started with, was the elbow. Tracking your previous limb when it is still a consistent shape, or there's some consistency there. Actually, there's something cool that happened over here, right? Yeah, even this is tracking. So the arm is back here and comes out here. This is still the same x-axis. X-axis? Yeah, the same x-axis, like on the screen. So it's coming from here and pushes out. So this, I would still even classify this as I still classify this as tracking. So tracking, that's number one. Halving, which is much more simple to understand. literally just the next frame is half of wherever its previous same limb was. Same thing with this arm. Cut that arm in half. And then again, the most consistent example, the back cutting through. And then dragging, which the reason why I call it dragging is because people could call it stretching, but the sense of dragging gets the point across better, because if I say stretch here, the word drag just also subconsciously helps you understand that I also mean there's like weight into it, or at least it does for me. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I do apologize for taking forever to make another tutorial. I do still want to create a community and a space where people are able to come and learn animation, because again, I think it's insane that there is not a better place to learn animation, especially in today's world where you can learn anything on the internet. So if anyone feels like they know how to do anything better than me, or they just have something that they want to share or say, please feel free to make your own videos, obviously, as if I can tell you not to. But yeah, like tag me. Like, I really want to be a part of a community where people can just come and learn and talk about animation finally. So yeah, if you guys like that, leave a comment, let me know what you guys think. Please like and subscribe, and please let me know what you guys want to see next. I do have a few ideas of what could be helpful. I'm gonna try to stay away from studying subjects and focus more on just showing you guys how I do things step by step. The next biggest idea is to do a big project, and then every time I run across into some problem, or maybe something new, or something I think would be interesting to show and share, I'll make a video tutorial on it, and then you guys can see literally how I do a full project from that. So and it's gonna be longer than most of the stuff on my channel. So yeah,